So thanks everyone for coming to our last session here on a Friday. My name is Tony Genovese. I'm the Finance Director and Town Administrator in Woodbridge. And we'd like to welcome you to How to Do More with Less. It's something we know all too well based on what's going on currently in the state. So we have two excellent speakers here for you who will give us some great ideas on how to do more with less with our IT. First is Glenn Mitchell, K-12 Sales for the Northeast Region of Extreme Networks, and Daniel Moskovitz, Chief Information Officer of Technology Advocates. So our first speaker is Glenn Mitchell. Glenn has over 30 years experience helping commercial K-12 and higher education institutions position technology to move forward. He has worked with administrations to develop and execute technology plans and effectively implementing various readiness programs, digital content initiatives in the classroom while working on infrastructure optimization. With extensive experience in leading application infrastructure technology, Glenn has effectively integrated industry best practices into IT departments. His passion for the past 6 years is helping schools integrate technology. So we'd like to welcome Glenn Mitchell.
Thanks. Thank you. Hi, everybody. First of all, it's Friday at 2:45. Thank you that we're still here, and that I do want to thank you for that. I was telling Adam I did a show in Delaware on a Saturday, and I was the last speaker on that one, and there was nobody in the room. So this is nice to have people here. So actually, what I'm gonna where do I approach? This one. Okay. Okay. So, real quick, a little bit about Extreme. Very quickly, so you set up about how come we even talk about what we're going to be talking about today around application analytics. Extreme Networks, we're an enterprise provider, manufacturer of enterprise switching, enterprise wireless, and then management solutions for your network, analytic solutions for your network, which we'll talk a little about today about how that can be used to understand your technology investments, security solutions, and then NAC and mobility types of solutions also. And then about 10% of our United States market is in the education field, higher ed and K-12. So about 70% of our business in the United States is in this area. So it's obviously, we know schools, we know what schools are looking for. We build a lot of our products around, purposely built around what the school area is in that. So just to set a little bit of where we are. So let's talk about what school administrations, what CIOs, what IT directors, and nowadays what school boards are really starting to talk about. Number one, 68 billion. There's no money in education. Education has no money, can't buy anything, can't spend anything. Gardner Group says $68 billion is going to be spent in the EDU field last year. That's worldwide, but it's a big number. So people are buying, schools are buying technology. It is what it is. We can say that it's not really happening. Schools don't have budgets. States don't have budgets. They're finding ways to get the money. They're buying stuff. Obviously, E-rate has an impact on this in the K-12 market and the ability to do stuff there. But the reality is, schools say, all right, we're going to use technology to start improving our learning and to start improving outcomes. We got to go buy it, and schools are out buying it. With that, so the user experience, kids, teachers, instructors, admins, they have this expectation of a great user experience in using technology. Apple did that to us all. Apple did it to the kids. Where it became very easy. These kids got a smartphone when they're very young. I download apps, they work. And so the expectation was it always worked. I'm always able to get on my app, and this is the way I want to learn. This is the way I want to engage with technology. As I get older, and it's not that I want to have it, I expect to have this great user experience. Teachers saying what? They're saying, all right, you want me to do flipped classroom, you want me to have technology in classroom initiatives, it better work. I better have a great experience. I better not be the IT person trying to fix everything in my classroom every day. It's got to be an environment and a solution that's always going to work, and I don't have to think about it so I can teach. And then lastly, I've been to actually a couple conferences with a lot of school boards members and that. The questions start to be asked now. All right, we've been doing all this investing. You're seeing, we're giving you this money to go buy your Chromebooks, to buy your iPads, to put your network infrastructure in place, to give you the stuff you say you need. Are we getting a return on our investment? School boards are starting to ask, was it worth it? Tell me what's going on, what's happening as far as education and improved outcomes, because if it's not working, I can just go get more teachers. I'd rather spend the money than on teachers, because I know they will. So you got these kinds of questions, in the community, and parents, and again, your school boards are starting to be held accountable to understand what's going on with these investments. So, kinds of questions, what are they asking? Is technology being used to drive learning? This is the item. I can't tell you how many schools you go to. We have a one-to-one initiative. All the high school kids now have iPads. Cool. What have you done to change curriculum? What are you doing with all these iPads in the learning process? And they stare at you. Well, we haven't changed a thing. There was a big article today, actually, in the Wall Street Journal about some of the Apple initiatives. I don't know if you had a chance to see out in New Mexico, where a lot of one-to-one schools are doing it. They said, first biggest problem is we go buy the technology and then we don't know what to do with it, as opposed to let's figure out what our curriculums need to do to change, what kind of professional development we need to do, what do we need to do so that when we do put the tools in front of them, does it work? All right, so are we even using it to drive learning, or are the kids just bringing it in so they can get on Facebook during the lunch hour and we're keeping them happy, right? Is it working? So that's the next question. Okay, they're using it, does it even work? Are we seeing improved outcomes? Are we seeing better graduation rates? Are we seeing better test scores? Are we seeing better grades? Are we seeing lower absenteeism? People being absent, right? So does it even work, these investments? So you got to start looking at that. You just don't want to say, yeah, I think so. You want to start looking at having some fact-based kinds of answers that you can do that. We talked about a little bit already. Are we getting the appropriate return of investment from our investments? So, again, if I'm spending money here, but the outcomes, I'm looking for these kind of outcomes. If the outcomes aren't happening, I'm going to invest my money somewhere else. And that, or show me that these investments do work, so we can invest more and be even more proactive around it and be able to make that happen. How's the user experience, right? And so we just talked about the user experience. We talk about user experience. It better be fast. It better be reliable. It better be secure. It better be simple to use. I mean, that's how we look at user experience, and when we're working with schools in that and saying what's going on in those 4 areas, what's that user experience look like? Is it fast, reliable, secure? Is it easy to get on and use? More and more, right? We've got all the regulatory compliance issues schools are hit with. So, the easy ones, PCI. Are you PCI compliant school? For taking credit cards. What's going on there? HIPAA compliance, right, around your health care. You got FERPA now, around student privacy kinds of stuff that you have to be able to report on. And then obviously, if you're an E-rate school, you have to be SIPA compliant. You have to be able to prove and show that you're that, or you lose all your E-rate funding, and you have to figure all that out. So you got a host of regulatory compliance issues that everybody's thinking about also. And then lastly, online testing, right? We got PARC, we got Smarter Balance, we got the state test. Scared to death, we're going into it, does it work? How can I be assured I'm going to have that environment, that environment's going to be, my network's going to be up, that that during that 40-minute testing period, I've got to get an environment that drives the user experience so the kids can take online tests. So one of the areas that we're seeing, you see this in schools a lot now anyway, is analytics. A lot of schools are really doing a lot of different stuff around analytics, around, down to the student level and our demographic area. That is this building doing different stuff than this building, however they want to look at it, or the things we can be doing there and that. And so there's different ways that you're starting to see deep dives into deep application or into analytics around the learning process down to the individual level. One of the areas we talk about is application analytics. And it's really having a set of tools that allows you to understand what applications are being used on your network, either in your network or via the cloud from your network. By whom, what device, time of day, and location. And so if I have every application coming through, and I'm able to grab that information and throw it into a database, and have all those factors, and then on top of that, understand total bandwidth being consumed by the application, throughput by the application, and response times around the application, which we'll talk more. What kinds of stuff can I be doing? What kinds of stuff, and as the curriculum director, as the IT director, I can start doing dashboards, reports to start talking about and looking at how are applications being used. Because that's what we're doing, technology in the classroom. We're getting all the devices to access applications. So we need to be able to understand where our applications are being used, how are they being used, and what do we need to do around it. So we've got like 4 different areas that we, that when I'm talking, we look at. So the first one is, which you would think, how is it being used in the classroom? All right, what applications are kids accessing? And I'm not talking about just the applications that instructors are saying, go to this app, go to this app, go to this app. That's part of it. But you got a lot of kids, they're intuitive. They figure out their own apps that they're playing with during the course of the day also. All right, so what are the kids doing that maybe we should know more about that might be helpful in that? But also understanding how is application usage going on. So if I'm doing flipped learning kinds of deals, what applications am I using in that classroom? And if I got a 5th grade class, same class, different building, different math class, same math class, just a different building, 5th grade math, and they're not doing flipped learning, and they're doing application access differently, can we learn from that? And I'm not talking down to the individual kid level, you could, but just understanding trends, saying, wow, we're seeing different outcomes out of this classroom that's using technology very heavily versus over here. Is there something we can learn from there as an administration, and that and being able to see trends or be able to see trends, I guess, of where we're going? How are my, the other things you start looking at is all my kids with 3.5 grade point averages are better. What are they doing with application usage over the course of the day? And again, it may be applications we don't even think about. They just do stuff in that. What are my bottom 10% of my kids doing? They're just doing Facebook, or they're just doing whatever. You could have some mentoring sessions, or at least you have an idea then to understand that maybe there's things we can be doing. So you can very quickly, you can understand how what applications are being used in our district, and how are they being used, and who are they being used by, and on what devices are they being used. And that's another important area. You get some nice parent that donates 100 Chromebooks. How are my Chromebooks doing? How are they being used in the classroom? People using them? Kids using them? I don't know. Well, wouldn't it be nice to say, yeah, here's how they're being used. They're being used very heavily in these classes. These kinds of applications we're using on them. Very straightforward answers, fact-based kinds of answers versus hunches in that. So you're able to get into that classroom, this environment, in your campus environment, and just understand what applications are being used, and what does that mean. It can mean anything to any school. It provides insights. There's not a right answer. It's what's right for you as a district. Second area, you start understanding licensing cost. This is a fairly simple one. I go buy 100 licenses of Blackboard. I get an annual subscription. You buy 100 licenses. Over the course of the year, you notice only 50 are being used. Why? Or only this one building's not using it at all, and all the other buildings are using it. But if I only got 50 being used, well, it's one of two things. Either I bought too many, so next year I know, instead of buying 100 subscription renewals, I only go down to 50 or 60, whatever. Or do I have a training problem? Do I have a problem where people aren't comfortable using that application, or I now have a PD opportunity to go in and do that, and to look at that so that we are getting the most out of the applications we're using. So this is an area, obviously, that treasurers, your finance directors love, because again, you go to the school board and say, boom, this is why we need more licenses, or we're going to use less licenses because we don't need it, or we have training issues. Third area is, user experience, right? And the ability to understand that my network and everything supporting application access is it running at a high level. Is my network run? Are my critical applications, whatever you deem as your critical application, your school district, are they getting the bandwidth they need? Are they getting the resources they need on the network so you always know they get quality service, they're up, they're running, and they do what they need to do? Do you even know what your highest, your high-performing apps are looking like? When you go as an IT director and say, I need a bigger pipe to the internet, we're getting clogged down, Why? Well, because it seems to get slower. Well, wouldn't it be nice to know that it's because Netflix is being used 30% of the day in a non-teaching environment? If I just knock that off, all of a sudden I just bought all kinds of bandwidth back to my school without having to make investments. But on the other side of it, say, here is where Netflix is being used in an educational sense in my classrooms, and I still need it in those classrooms. I need to optimize the delivery of that application in that classroom during that period. And it just allows you to manage and to strategize and to build, future-proof your network and what you need, again, to provide a great user experience through the delivery of the applications and what you're doing. And then, finally, we got the whole, we have to keep a safe environment, right? We want to know what rogue applications are on my network. In schools, it's not about outside hackers trying to improvise and trying to take over your network. It's the kids, right? It's, high school kids are very smart kids, and they will try to break into your network and do stuff. And so they're going to have stuff hitting your network that you just, a lot of times we would never know what's going to happen. But wouldn't it be nice now to know, these applications are hitting my network, I'm going to knock them off. I'm going to tap Johnny on the shoulder and say we need to talk because there's something weird going on, what kind of stuff you're doing in that. The ability to digital citizenship programs, digital license programs. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, where based on how good of an internet behavior kids have, they get more and more, they get to do more and more on the internet, right? So that they take a class, they pass the test, they show that they're not doing cyberbullying, they're being a good internet citizen. I'm going to give you more privileges to do stuff on that internet. So now you have the ability to do that kind of stuff because you know what's going on and what the kids are trying to do there. And then when they do bad, you can slap them and knock them all the way down. You take their license away for a while, and you tell them that you have no internet access at the school. You tell a high school kid that, for the next 3 weeks, they learn. So you get that kind of stuff. And then obviously, your ability then to, show PCI your compliance stuff. That, hey, yeah, we are looking for security threats, doing our part around, PCI and SIPA and HIPAA and that, to do that. So this is all, a lot of this stuff you're just doing by understanding what applications are hitting the network. One of them I didn't talk about was talk about response time, the ability to understand the difference between network response time and application response time. All right, the ability to track that and manage that. Because what always happens, application is slow, it's the network problem. It's a network problem. And I got the real life instance where a school in Ohio was doing testing for Pearson, for online testing. They weren't testing, they were testing the testing area. And it was bad, it was slow. And Pearson kept telling them, no, it ain't us. It's the network. No, it ain't us. They were able to show them with reports. Boom. Here's the network response time. Here's the application response time to access your application on your servers in Colorado. And they said, whoops, you're right. We do have a problem. And, they fixed it. So again, allows you to understand, even from that standpoint, to cover your butt and provide a great experience. So, Conclusions, analytics is growing. It's the way schools are starting to move to analyze and try to improve the learning process. You know, application analytics usage is just another one tool that you'll be able to use in your analytics arsenal. And it's a need to help make fact-based insights, fact-based, as opposed to hunches. And I think we need it because I feel that way. The school boards are looking a little bit more seriously now at your ability to give them the answers they need before they're going to okay new investments and so on. And then lastly, there's solutions out there. Obviously, we have one. There's others out there, but it's something to be looking at. You go through your district to really help you understand just what's going on with our technologies in our classroom. Questions? Comments? Yeah, right? Sure. Yes.
I may not really understand, but if we're on the CEN network, that the CEN run these analytics, or
Well,
we do it at the local level?
All the schools we work with right now, we do it at the local level, but it's funny, we are having conversations with, we're not with the CEN network, but other states and their state networks, that we put our tool on their whole state network, and now they get to see the whole state. So the Department of Education, they love that, because now they get some visibility to what's going on across the entire state in that. So it's, and again, I'm not here to talk solutions, to be honest with you, but we can scale it up, scale it down, or whatever is needed from that standpoint. Yes?
So is it only tracking things that are actually going on the network? It wouldn't track like local?
Yep, it tracks local. All your local network traffic, and then...
But like office programs that are locally installed on computers?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Your access, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you'd be good that way also. Yeah, our deal with 10,000 application fingerprints we track. So it's pretty much every application, we know because we actually built it from a security packet we had. So you're always tracking everything there. And then the reality is, if we need to create a new fingerprint, we really don't have that application, it takes 10 minutes to build a new fingerprint to track that application. And we're not saying it just to say Google. This kid's doing Google. It's saying they're on Google Maps, or they're on Google Drive, or they're getting down to what they're really hitting on that application from that standpoint too. It's not this is broad brush kinds of things. So obviously we'd be happy to talk to you, demo it, show you how other schools are using it. Enfield Schools is our product. Some of you know them. They use it very heavily in the kind of stuff we're talking about here, from a Connecticut standpoint. And then we got a lot of schools in New England using it. Good? Questions? All right. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Everybody, thanks to Glenn for his presentation.
Thanks. I got to run to the airport. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
So our next presenter is Daniel Moskovitz. Daniel is the Chief Information Officer of Technology Advocates. Right? And in this session, Daniel will talk about the project management, how to stretch your budget to do more with less. So we all look forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, who am I? Why am I here? Why should you listen to me in the first place? I came into technology being the classic geek, the techie, and I always found myself fixing things, and I always found myself wanting to know more about the businesses and what was going on that I was fixing, because I found it was easier to fix things when I knew a little bit about the business. But if you think about technology, the term geek and many of these things, we're always thought of speaking your own language and a disconnect. So if there's anything that I want people to take away from talking today is bridging that barrier, that gap between speaking technology and speaking money and speaking business. And we have different people here. My background, I worked for a tremendous amount of nonprofits. I just stopped listening after a while. Actually, I was talking to you before.
before. And there was, Westchester Library System was one of the ones I worked with a lot, and they're not even out here. A lot of the work I do, I'm not trying to sell anything, a lot of the work I do is clearly pro bono. In my community, I've done a lot. I've been very fortunate in my life to do a lot of things that have paid me enough so I can do things for other people. And I'll admit that many of the pro bono works that I've done have just introduced me to people that was work that someone wanted for a for-profit company. And a lot of what I do is actually why I put that at for-profit companies is you'll actually see there's quite a few very name brands up there. A lot of what I was involved with was solving problems that other people just wouldn't solve or couldn't solve. And almost all the people I list here had amazing tragedies that needed to be solved. And personally, I see the educational world right now is an area that has a tragedy. That technology just is not being leveraged the way it should be. That as the previous speaker said, there's a ton of money out there, but I'll bet all of you were thinking when you heard that, yeah, but I don't seem to be able to get it, or I can't get it where I need it, when I need it. Or it takes too long, or many of these things. I'm going to try to address some of those things. And I got to tell you, I've done a talk on this before, and I usually have like 4 hours to do it. And it's usually much more interactive and much more vertical. It's with specifically CFOs or something. So I tried to just cut out a lot of stuff and put it all in here. So I just wanted to understand a little more about who is here. This is who I think is here, so we don't have to raise hands unless you tell me that you're not a K-12 high education municipality or libraries. There's people that are something else that I might be missing when speaking to. Is that the gamut? Okay. No answer is a good answer. So these are the subjects I'm going to try to cover. I don't have a lot of time. But I will also say, since we're a small group, please feel free to interrupt. I don't even look at it as interrupt. I work better with interacting with people because I'm here to answer your questions. I mean, I could sit here and just answer everybody's questions like, how do you get money for this? Or that. I've been literally doing this 35 years. But I kind of try to come up with some of the major subjects. Okay, these are them. We're going to cover them. You can have the slides. Next one, we'll start with the first. I guess this is what I already started to talk about. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. That's the old expression. But I got to tell you, everybody's going to say, well, this is common sense to a lot of things. But what I'm going to try to show you is how we're actually not doing the things that we know are common sense. So I'm going to remind you, and then at the end you're going to go, well, about 20 of those things out of 40 was common sense. But I don't really think about them too often. So connecting to the people, like I was saying, and the big picture. We're a school, we're a library, municipality. But what is the real thing that, are at the board meetings or that are going on? What are the parents or the school or the community leaders talking about? Are we reading the local paper? I mean, things like that. Are we involved in finding out what are the key things? Because that is one of the ways to get money. Connecting up to the things that are the key things that happen to be screaming out there. And that goes back to understanding the internal process. Maybe you came from a company and now you're working for a municipality or a library. Or maybe you're just doing your job because we don't have enough time in the day to do our job sometimes. But understanding that process of what's going on around you is one way to leverage that process. If you don't, you really can't expect to win. This is what I think that most people in general are just bad at. I mean, we're bad at promoting ourselves unless you're a professional salesman. And if we're busy doing something that we're good at, technology people in general are good at working in closets, not in public. We're not good at promoting ourselves. So learn that you have to demonstrate to other people the value you bring. Because I can guarantee you, I've had the strange events, I'm working in a company, and I'm fixing one product over here, and I was promoting, or someone promoted that it was, this guy was fixing something, per se. Other people are coming up, you were fixing that? Could you fix this? So if you are out there solving problems, other people are going to come to you. And when those people come to you, their money comes to you. That's, again, what this talk's about, right? How do we get things funded? You got to go out there and promote yourself. I guess it's a common sense. The concern that you can't just go out there and act like you're doing this, what this is about. You really have to care. And if you really don't care, someone else should be doing it, I think. Connected spending to other departments. this is one that maybe is, again, common sense, but the idea is make sure that what you're doing is a solution, that the people out there not only want it, but they know you're doing it for them. You know, a lot of times we're doing security, but the finance department might not know it. Or we're doing something that's security that's related for the end user, but the end user doesn't know. The end user is also someone that will help promote and get your things funded. And I'll point out, especially in this room, we also forget that all our communities have people that donate money, and if they hear that and see good things happening, and then you start asking or putting out that you're looking for funding, it's amazing how it appears sometimes. And that's kind of what that's about, the respect and concerns. But also that you're not wasting their money, the respect for the cost. Because if you're out there buying, I mean, he mentioned it, I can't tell you how many schools buy Wi-Fi, buy one-to-one devices, and he's right. They don't use it. They buy licenses, and they don't use it. Why is it that we find out after the fact? He said, 100 licenses, 50 are in use. How about let's learn to buy less and build up to what we need? Hit the maxims, learn how to manage it. So again, that's the respect for the cost that he was talking about. Again, this continues on that path, but I also don't believe technology is the solution to everything. Technology is a tool. You want the right tool for the right thing. Wow, that's an obvious one, right? But I think we're constantly thinking that technology is going to solve things and promoting to people that technology is solving things. And, you know, people get a bad taste in life. Technology doesn't fix everything. I mean, we were talking about libraries before. I don't like to read on a reader. I don't like to read on a phone. I have a really small phone because it's really for text messaging and using to talk. I don't know if everybody does that. I like to read newspapers that put that, maybe I'm old. I don't know what it is. But I also know a lot of kids, my nieces and nephews, that are sub 10 years old, and they love books. Yeah, there's something about the feel to them. We don't have to fix everything with technology. So focusing on fixing the right things and respecting what we're investing in, doing those things right is really helpful. Communicating priorities. Can't do everything at once. We all have a limited amount of time. I'll never get through all the slides, just trust. But these are some of the key things. So if we aren't communicating, again, these priorities and letting people understand that we're not going to get to everything, and again, sometimes limiting what we're doing so we can get to doing things right is important. And that all goes to the next one, which is the user buy-in. When we get the user buy-in, it's going to bring money. And I know this is about money, and trust me, this is all to me, these are the things that are many times missing to getting funding. People just think, I ask for money and I don't get it, but they don't know why they're not getting it. When, again, we were hearing, there's a lot of money out there, and that is the truth. You know, at school district, I've done a lot of work for Greenwich Public Schools, and even Greenwich Public Schools, who, even if there's people in this room, I will say it publicly, record it, and repeat it. They have more money than almost any school district in the country. Will say they don't have enough money for things. And I'm just like, so then I work with other school districts in New York that have very little money, like the Bronx, and they do so much more many times. It's not about really the gross amount of money. So some of the things I recommend is actually spending time with users, asking the right questions, really going out there. And you're all going to say, well, I don't have that much time. You have to make time for these things. You can't implement technology, utilize technology, if people don't want that technology, you can't get the money for that technology. The way to do it is to find out what's the right problems. You talk to a teacher or a librarian or an administrator or a bookkeeper or anybody and find out what's making their day horrible personally, what they think can be done better, and then try to find solutions to that. Do the research yourself. Do it with the users. Go meet them. I mean, people just don't do enough of this. And then that just really simply goes to customer service. We forget that customer service is how we're reviewed. Since they're not reviewing it, people forget about it. And since, you know, this is what I'm always trying to connect that for-profit with not-for-profit is, if this was a for-profit company who provided bad customer service and technology, they'll fire you. They'll fire you, they'll get rid of your department, they'll outsource you. In education or in municipalities, that doesn't happen, so we forget about it. So I'm reminded. I might have 12 more slides, so we'll just figure something out. Some of the slides are kind of closer. again, so learning from others. I mean, I kind of touched on this. The idea is coming to events like this, ask around. One of the things that I was talking about with people is, at a meeting like this, one of the things that I find frightening is people don't talk to enough people. Okay, I'm going to blame these 3 girls that are right here that talk to lunch. If I were you 3, I would have forced myself to go to 3 different tables at lunch. That's an example of what I'm trying to talk about. Instead of sitting with the people you know, go and sit with people you don't. And that's what I did. That's how I met you girls, right? So I learned a little about what you liked and didn't like. I learned a little about other shows that were going on. I mean, I learned a lot, and that was like 20 minutes. So just think if the 3 of you went to 3 different tables and started just talking to the other people and introducing yourself. That's what I'm encouraging. And it's easy at an event like this, and we don't do it, but the next thing I'm going to tell you to do is from an event like this, call the people that are running this event, or any event that you want, and say, hey, I'm looking for someone like myself. This money, millions of dollars, this type of municipality demographics. Could you introduce me to them, a person in my role, and so I can meet them, and just pick up the phone and say hello. You won't believe this. They'll take your call and love to hear from you. And they will share things. And this is the things you want to do. Hey, I'm looking at web filtering, or if I should do E-rate or not in a library. Did you do that? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. But Jimmy or Joni, in 2 blocks down or 2 cities down did, and I know them. I'll introduce you to them. And ask them for things like, well, when you did that, did you actually write it down? You know, did you create a worksheet? Do you have documents? How did you fund it? What did you do? And when you made a decision, why did you decide? And this is truly the best question that I think everybody should take it. What would you do differently? I mean, how many times you've thought about, I bought a car, I bought a house, I married so-and-so. If I knew better, this is what I would do differently. Ask that question. That is so valuable right there. You're going to save yourself 20% on your next budget just by asking other people that are in your own shoes. Okay? This is another one that's kind of a pet peeve and I don't know about it, but if you don't write things down and you don't take notes, we don't remember it as well. I find that if you write things down, even if you never read again, you throw it away after you write it down, it gets stuck in your head better. So I will formally say, do it. And because then also when someone else wants to know about it, you can hand it to them. And it's really just the karma effect. Because what if someone does come asking, how did you do with your Wi-Fi? What were your decisions? You go, I'm going to look at my notes. I'll photocopy it. You can read my chicken scratch, this great, or type, or whatever it is. So I encourage that. And that just goes to that share what we're learning. Because as you share, you get more feedback and you build these relationships. I mean, we all hear about social networking. But social networking didn't take a website or anything. I'm talking about social networking with your phones or email or more basic. And what I already said, but be specific. Don't really be specific. Dig in deep. You have a specific question like, hey, I'm really worried about this usage of my computers. Did you address it? And you find out no, or geez, I'm interested in that too. When you find the answer, that's great. Okay, maybe some of this, but it's about also building relationships. We're kind of moving on to another subject. We interact with vendors, but we also interact with the towns, the schools in our area. It's all about building relationships. And this is kind of talking, came from working with vendors, because working with your vendors, you're going to find, you'll actually be shocked. You're going to get a proposal for $100,000 and you say, well, forget it, I don't even want to talk to you anymore. We can't go do for more than 50. Oh, we could probably make that work. You're like, whoa, that's half. Well, what was that about? So these are why I brought up some of these things that you can kind of take away. Literally ask them questions like, what are your profit margins for your company? Do you do anything pro bono for organizations? Oh, we do, but that, that's not my sales thing, but our company does. Things of that nature. What are the commissions? What are agreements with other organizations? And what I mean by that is, you have a company where they're promoting some other product, or let's say it's a company selling a Cisco device, and you find out that Cisco, they make 40% margin, but Aruba, they make 5% margins. But Cisco seems to be the thing that they want to recommend. Unfortunately, that is what goes on in this world. If you're not asking the questions, you are being taken advantage of. I'm just going to simplify it that way. And then another thing that doesn't happen happen with vendors, because the vendor, you got to go to a vendor for something, is you have to play the dance with them. You have to start to be good at it, and it's something you need to practice in. So involve yourself with as many vendors as possible. And I know everybody hates it, trust me. Just telling you, you ain't gonna hate it. But maybe you can make a game out of it. So one of my favorite things to do, and I think people enjoy doing, is selling yourself. When you sell yourself to the vendor, you're like, hey, you know, I am this, you know, library or school district here, but our town has other things. I talk to the other people in the town. And look, we just talked about relationships with other towns. And I have friends in 6 other towns that are 10 times as big. And hey, wouldn't you like me to be a pilot for this? And look at all the publicity you can get. I would be happy to write you a reference if you do a good job. And I would just like to know if I get a discount for doing that. Why not? I'm a nonprofit. Feel bad for me. But why not? You're going to say these things sound silly, but they really work every single time. And if they don't, you tell them, well, you know, that's just not going to work. The other guy will. And then they're like, shit, what am I going to do now? Again, ask them, am I getting a discount? You know, and what's that discount? And have them prove it. Like, hey, I just went to CDW and that thingy you just quoted me, you know, CDW education, I get the same price. Why aren't you 20% less? I'm paying you to install it. Why don't you give it to me for free? I'm serious. I ask all these questions all the time. They look at me like I'm crazy. And I go, I tell them, look at me like I'm crazy. I don't care. But amazingly, stuff comes for free sometimes. This is another really good one. And for 15 years of my life, I was a VAR. A VAR is a value-added reseller, where I sold things to make money, and we installed them and did them. So I come from knowing by doing. I stopped doing that about 10 years ago because I didn't like the world. Because I like to be honest, is really what it comes down to. And I felt I was always trying to make money, and I was selling the product and making the most money on it. And I didn't always want to do that, and it was a conflict in my mind. But some of the things I learned that other people don't is there are better times to be buying things in the world. I'll use HP as an example, because HP has a deal with the state of Connecticut where you guys can all get a discount. That's just something I don't know if you all know. CEN is on their website, it's on the state's website, they have control costs. You don't ask for they don't get it. But at the same time, HP is an example, and again, I'm not promoting, I'm just connecting you to them. HP, like many other vendors, Dell does the same thing. At a time of year where they literally, you can get 60% discounts on hardware. And literally a month before that, the best you're going to get from the state contract might be 30%. So that 30% discount will make a huge difference. You might say, well, I'm not really ready to buy it in December when they're going to do that. I need to buy it in June when my fiscal year restarts. You know what? Make them the deal in December and tell them when you're going to buy it and say, look, I'm going to write in a contract. This is when we're going to buy it. You got a problem with that? And you know what? The salespeople will go to bat for you and go, yeah, I will because I want that set. Opposed to waiting and seeing what happens. So these are all things you can do. And there's a million little nuances that I can't get to. And then when it comes to budget, as I mentioned, again, I had to cut out lots of slides, so just stuff together. You can delay payments on things. And this isn't just where we're talking about, you know, getting a payment or a lease or something, but literally you can say, can I actually not pay you for 3 months because I want it to be in my next bill, my next budget cycle. I want to split something between 2 years. Can I do that? And most of the time, or a good percentage of the time, they will. And then the other thing is that I think happens, sales teams run away when you're done, you know, when the sale is over. Don't let that happen. Tell them you're not going to let that happen. Tell them you want them to be your advocate. After the sale for the technology implementation, I'm going to talk to you, and I want to make sure you're going to be on that meeting when I have the planning of what's going on. Because, and you're going to tell them, if you want me to ever buy anything from you, then you're going to do that, basically. Or from this district. Or if it's not going to be done, even if you had to put it in writing. I guess this is some, I was trying to get a flow to this. Put it in writing. I really hate to say it, but if you didn't write it down, they're going to say no. I can't tell you how many times a sales guy disappears, not because they did anything wrong, they moved to another company. Or a company, I mean, this actually just happened with HP, since I used that as an example before. Has anybody heard that HP split between HP printers and HPE and HP Enterprise? Well, they moved their sales teams all around. So you could have made a deal with a VP, and this has actually happened with me, a VP in HP, And now that guy's not in HP anymore. He's in HP printers. And they're like, well, and I show them an email, but you know what? I have it actually, in writing to me is good enough. I have it in writing, in an email, that yes, I am going to promise you this. And some of those things you can do, get promises for, is clearly an understanding of responsibilities for each party is important. You say, well, you know, we talked about it, and they're going to do that because they said they are, but also say what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. Because what you're not going to do means they're going to do, and it's helpful. Because in working for municipalities and education, I find a lot of trouble comes when, what does the exact contract say? Who's going to go and fight for it? But when you can show in some simple emails in less legal terms what was expected, they're going to comply with it because they don't want to go down the road of hearing and fight about it. And go for things like discounts today should continue in the future. You know, I mentioned that HP is the example. Again, Dell does the same thing, so whatever. Provides huge discounts at certain times of the year. It's usually towards the last quarter of the year. But what if you're buying something that's a little more expensive than you think you could afford, and they're saying, hey, we're going to get them bid into this, and they're going to use this technology, but when they rebuy, we're going to get them at higher rates. You can get them right in, and they will. They usually never care about this, and they'll do it. I want to guarantee for 2 years that price discount over list. So they can raise the list, but if I'm getting a 55% discount of this equipment that I'm buying, so when I upgrade it or replace or add on to it, I'm going to continue to get it, and they will do it. And I can show you examples of what companies have done this. And another thing is, some of them, like maintenance is commonly, I used to say, is about 20% of a hardware device. But some of them raise that, so it's 20-25%. Set those things in stone now. In general, those are things you can do with no cost. If we don't ask you, okay. Then it comes to the outcomes. You know, I'm big about, I don't pay them until I really got what I'm expecting. Would you pay for a car that you didn't have delivered to you? You know, but we pay for technology before it's installed or functioning. You know, it's physically installed a rack. Well, that's great, so you send me a check. But I can't use it, or maybe the outcome isn't working. And then get to those measurable successes. You know, I mean, I was brought in to help solve a problem. $600,000 of wireless, and they couldn't get 20 devices onto the wireless at once. But they paid for it. But why? Because it was installed, and it was configured, so they left. Because there was nothing defining what is measurable success. So do it. And if you guys want, you can ask me questions or send me emails like, give me examples for wireless measurable success, or application measurable success, things you can do yourself, because I will give you the guidance for it to figure it out in your own world. Because again, it goes back to that relationship with the end user. You go to the end user and say, if we implement a one-to-one program, how would you feel, how would you decide it worked? What you as a teacher is going to say it works. Okay? Again, resolving differences is important. And an SLA is agreement of what expectations on how things are going to work and how fast they're going to be done. Those agreements are very technical and usually don't mean anything. What they usually say is, if we don't provide something, we're not going to charge you for that. Those moments it's not working. If I didn't want to pay for something for the few minutes it's not working, I wouldn't buy it in the first place. It's all the other times I need it. It's when I need it. So don't think the SLA is saving you because you've got I'm horrible. Life cycle management. I'm not going to go into this one too much because, but there's the whole idea of life cycle management is to create a process for retiring things, and from the day you buy it, plan to have multiple lives. Let's say a PC. People think they put out a PC, a server, a wireless access point, a projector, and then it stays in its place and then it dies and we throw it away. Plan it to stay there for the primary reasons to be there when it's the best power because it's the newest thing. And maybe it's 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years where it goes to a secondary life. Let's use a PC. PC for someone that's very important, super power users, tons of apps. After 2 years, they want a new one. Well, why don't you plan that after 2 years that goes to a secondary place with maybe someone that uses it, it's also powerful for a computer, but not as much. And then even has a third life 2 years later where it's going to be a reserve or a parts one. And you plan these life cycles. And now that PC, there was a 2 to 4 year life cycle is going to have a 6 to 8 year life cycle. You can do that with anything. That's kind of why I put this list together. Each one should have its own separate life cycle. And let's use an example of a server, which I don't know how many people are server related here. But the idea of the server, maybe the server has a 3-year hardware warranty. And I don't want to replace that I don't want to renew that warranty every 3 years. But maybe I'm going to have it in a primary role where it's mission critical for 3 years. And then 3 more years in less mission critical where we have a few of them, they're doing just some back office stuff, printing or other ancillary things that aren't the primary, where if it goes down for a few hours and not outlive, or maybe it's going to be parts, is it secondary life? But plan it. And when you plan it, you actually extend it, and you'll find if you go down to the bottom of each year's totals of equipment that you need, you need less stuff. This leads directly to selecting the products. And connects back to what you're using. Don't buy stuff you don't need. People do it all the time. Salespeople are always pushing it. And I don't want to come across as an anti-salesperson. When you have really good salespeople, they're out there helping, and they're great people. And that's what you want to look for. But I'm just pointing out that you have to make sure that's what's going on. And you're the only one that can do it and judge it. And again, the connection back with the users. Have you noticed? You are the middle person. You're between the person with the money, the public, your bosses, the end users, and other employees of your organization. You're the one that's bringing them together. You bring tools together, communication together. So you need to be clearly defining what their needs are, so you're only buying for what you need, and not what maybe you're going to need, or someone's telling you, this will be great in the future. Well, wait till the future is the answer to that. That's what the whole right-sizing idea. We're talking about deals and different. Free products. Oh, I love this one. Free products aren't free. That's really the simple answer. Didn't anybody ever, what's the expression? If it's free, it's not worth anything. I don't know what the expression is. But be very wary of things that are free. Many times you're locked into something. And I mentioned before evaluation of pilot programs. Find out about them, ask about them, get involved with them. It's a great place also to start getting a budget. I've worked where, the Greenwich Public Schools, for example, I did the pilot project for Chromebooks. And I did it as a donation to them. And I said, you guys should be piloting Chromebooks. And the PTA funded it, because I had met the PTA years before, and they're like, yeah, we'll fund that project for you. They funded it, and next thing you know, they're now spending $6 million on a one-to-one program. Well, it all started by a little evaluation pilot funded by the PTA. Okay? And be creative, and that's the toughest one. But what I mean by that is, just think about things that you might not do normally. A car wash. Care what it is. That's what I'm trying to think of. Be flexible. This kind of connects with other things, but realize that people talk about virtualization, learn about new technologies, learn about different ways to do things. Think that the way it was done before is not always the way to do it tomorrow. That's what flexibility, there's a million things to flexibility. Like I said, that's like 2 hours on. I kind of talked about this quite a bit already, but one of the things I want to talk about here is the silent majority. I like that one because of all the politics going on. Most people would use the squeaky wheel philosophy here. There's a few people that are always squeaking, and you're addressing them. And you think that's what the world is. But there really is a silent majority in every user base. If you don't go ask people that aren't asking you, you're not going to find this out. And you're going to find it's not the 80-20 rule, it's the 98-2 rule. 98% of people have something that's going on, and 2% are saying, I want this, and that's only 2%. And when you get the 98% and say, hey, would anybody like this? You get every hand showing up suddenly, and you're like, oh, look at that. And then your funding comes in. So I want to point that out. And the budget is a tool. That's the communication thing again. People don't like to create budgets. Create a budget. Show people what you're spending money on. And show how little you might have in one area or how much you like. Use it as a tool. It's not there to annoy you. This is actually one of my last steps. I say this one towards the end. There's tons of free stuff out there. I could have gone on for a week of free stuff. Again, these things are available. I'm also available to help anybody if you have something specific you want funded. I have gotten lots of things funded in amazing ways. Again, I mentioned the HP thing here. TechSoup provides free licenses. After 9/11, Helen Keller Worldwide was one of my clients. I did a disaster recovery planning a month before 9/11, They actually turned down my proposal for a project. I was FAR at the time. But all the documentation I gathered afterwards, I volunteered to help recover them. Intel and Microsoft donated over $1 million to me for them because I was a partner with them, and we did amazing things to get them up and running because it's an international organization in 25 countries. And 9/11 might have been an exception, but the point is, the only reason they did it is because we went out and asked. You know, it wasn't just me asking, there was other people asking. Get other people to help you ask. There's lots of organizations, the superhighway, you know, we were talking about E-rate and when to use E-rate or not. The Educational Superhighway Organization they specialize in helping everybody get high-speed communication. CEN doesn't leverage them, but it's because they actually know a lot on their own. But for your subset, they're there to help. And Power, they're Connecticut, their CEO, or I can't remember what her title is actually in Connecticut. And they have a lot of resources, but they donate where they'll do technical projects. Here I have this technical project, I can't afford the labor to do it. They'll do it for you. That's what they do, they get volunteers.
Well said.
I'm over.
That's it.
If you have any more questions, I just do everything.
So thank you very much for your great presentation. And anyone have any last minute questions? Otherwise, thank you all for coming to the CEN conference this year. And I believe there's a wrap-up presentation down the hall, and then there's a happy hour down. Okay? Thank you. There's tickets on the back, right? Thank you.